Polytomic is a new tool to sync data between any of your systems, spreadsheets, CRMs, databases, or anything with an API. In this example, we will sync data from two Google Sheets. I have one here and another one here. We will sync data from both of them into HubSpot here. Now, the first thing to set up in Polytomic are data models. All data models are lists of fields from your sources. In this case, our two sources are two Google Sheets, so we will surface fields from them and then sync from that into HubSpot. So let's surface data from one spreadsheet. We'll click Add Model, top right, choose our source system to be this user list spreadsheet, and let's call this model Users. And we'll go to the one and only tab on this sheet. Clicking on that shows you all the columns or fields on this spreadsheet. Note every field gives you an example value from your own data so you can see what things look like. And the leftmost column is the actionable one here. This is a yes/no column that ultimately decides what fields are surfaced in a data model so they can be used for syncing. Now, in this example, I will select all the fields and click Save. And so with a few clicks, we've surfaced some fields from a Google Sheet. Let's surface fields from another sheet. We'll hit Add Model, choose our source connection to be this other sheet. And let's call this model Order Addresses. This contains some mailing addresses for some sample users. Go to the one and only tab on the sheet, and same flow. We get back a list of fields, their example values, and let's extract the city, state, and country from the spreadsheet. Now, you do get an optional join step, and this is very similar to associations in HubSpot or relationships in Salesforce. You can set relationships between models in Polytomic. Now, this is optional. I could ignore it and move on, but note that we have an email field here under Users, and we have an email field from this spreadsheet as well. And so we can specify a relationship between these two common fields, even though they come from different places. And so let's do that. Email here maps to email in our user model, and we'll hit Save. Right, a few clicks, we've surfaced some more fields from another spreadsheet. You could surface all sorts of data within Polytomic, but let's wrap this up by creating a sync into HubSpot. We'll hit Create Sync, choose our destination system to be HubSpot, and you can sync to all sorts of objects, including custom ones. We will sync into contacts, and you get three types of sync to choose from. Either you only create new records in HubSpot, or only update existing records in HubSpot, or do both. We'll do both for the sake of this demo. Now, the first thing to set with any sync is an identity mapping between the two sides. On the left-hand side, it's all the Polytomic model fields we've just surfaced from Google Sheets. On the right-hand side, it's all the HubSpot contact fields, since we're syncing into contacts. All the identity mapping is a match key from both sides, so that we know when we're dealing with the same object on both sides. And very typically for contacts, people will pick email address as their identity, so let's do that. Now, once you do this, you can go nuts and sync wherever you want from the models we've just surfaced. For example, we can sync first name from that spreadsheet into the first name field in HubSpot. We can sync last name. We can also grab subscription plan into a custom field that we've created on contacts. And we can grab the city field from the order addresses spreadsheet into the city field on contacts. I could go on, but I assume the viewer gets the point. It's a simple field mapping exercise once you set your models. You can even set filter conditions on your syncs. So for example, perhaps I only want to sync records where email does not end with gmail.com. For example, there are a rich set of filter conditions for strings, other ones for numbers, and other ones for dates. I won't set any here. You can then click preview, where we'll run a live load of some sample records, show you what they'd look like before they go into HubSpot. If the preview looks good, dismiss. Hit continue. Here's where you can set your sync schedule. And this could be manual, where someone has to click a button, or continuous, which is on a near real-time basis. Anytime anything in the spreadsheets changes, updates are moved over. Or have it all be on a fixed schedule, hourly, daily, weekly, and so on. In all these cases, we will only ever move changes. If nothing changes in your sources, in other words, your spreadsheets, nothing moves into HubSpot. It's only new records and updates that move, and you get to choose how frequently that happens. I'll set this to be rolling on a continuous basis. Hit continue, verify your sync summary. If your settings look good, just save your sync in the top right. And that's it. We've created a contact sync going from these values and these spreadsheets into HubSpot. One can run a test sync, which would sync 5 random records to HubSpot, or we can enable the sync. So let's do that. And this will run next at 4:24 p.m. Pacific, because that's where I am. And instead of waiting, let's just kick off a sync. So let's do that. And there's a sync running at this point. One can go into sync history and see an audit log of all syncs as they're running, and various statistics about syncs that have finished in the past. And lastly, you can enter in anyone's email address and add them as a subscriber to our automatic error notifications should things fail. Otherwise, you can walk away knowing that anytime your spreadsheets change, the updates will automatically move to HubSpot. Now, Polytomic is a generic sync tool, and suppose you wanted to sync from HubSpot into spreadsheets. Well, it's the same workflow. Step 1, expose the data in a data model. Step 2, set up a sync, and that's it. You could, for example, click Add Model, choose your source system to be HubSpot, and let's say we'd like to surface contacts, and you get to browse the objects on your HubSpot instance. We'll pick contacts, and as this loads, you'll see that it's the exact same workflow we've been used to. Just pick your fields, click Save, and then you have a data model from which you can sync anywhere you want, including to other spreadsheets, or Airtable, or other business systems, or even to databases.